Well, hey everyone, and welcome into this sort of Snorkl Ditch That Textbook tandem webinar where we're going to get to talk about 5 very practical, very impactful ways that you can use Snorkl in the classroom. My name's Matt Miller. I'm the author of Ditch That Textbook and the creator of the Ditch That Textbook newsletter, author of 7 books, current high school Spanish teacher, wearer of many hats, sitting here in a classroom actually right before a high school basketball game, and excited to get to chat about Snorkl and some of the ways that you can use it. So if you're sort of new to Snorkl and you're joining us on this webinar, then you're in the right place because you're going to get to use it. You're going to get to see lots of different ways that it can be used. And if you're a sort of seasoned, experienced user of Snorkl, you very well might see some ways to use it that you haven't seen before. So anyway, I am, of course, joined here. My co-host for this webinar is John from Snorkl. So John, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Matt, I brought my Snorkl too, so we're
ready to dive in.
Done. Great to be here. Super excited to get to share Snorkl with everyone. If you're joining us live, feel free to drop a message in the chat. My name is John. I'm one of the co-founders of Snorkl. I'm a former high school math teacher, and so the classroom is near and dear to my heart. I taught for 10 years, and one of the things I always wanted to be true in my classroom was that we can make a class not just about getting answers, but about student thinking. And so we really started Snorkl around that premise of how do we get students talking and sharing their thinking? How do we capture student thinking in rich and interesting ways? And it's been just tremendously fun to get to share it with people and to get into classrooms and see it in action and all those things. So excited to get to share it with everyone who is here today. It looks like we got folks from New Jersey. Kim, good to have you. Valerie, Louisiana. Drop something in the chat if you are joining us live here. Let us know where you're coming in from. There's already a lot in there. Thanks, Kim. So glad that you're enjoying Snorkl. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I've got to say, I'm thrilled to get to talk about this. I can confidently and honestly say that after having gone to a whole bunch of teacher conferences over the last couple of years, really since Snorkl's inception, I've heard so many teachers just talking about how they're excited about the platform. And just like what John was saying, the ability to really empower student voice and let students use their voice to explain things and not just fill out another mindless worksheet, but to actually do something where they're talking about their learning, where they can do it in a visual way, where they can even express a little bit of creativity and then get that instant feedback. And it's been so cool for me, just not as somebody who works for Snorkl, obviously, just as somebody who uses it and talks about it and everything. It's been fun for me to see a lot of the ways that teachers are using it, whether it's to have students work an individual math problem start to finish and talk about their thinking there, or to be able to describe an image or to fill out a graphic organizer, or it's just like, that's one of the things that I love about it personally, is that there's so much that you can do with it, and then students get that that immediate feedback. It's just that extra layer of feedback that's so hard for teachers to be able to do when, for me, for instance, I'm teaching a class of Spanish 3 where I have 33 kids. And so there's no way that I can provide immediate instant feedback to all 33 of them. But if they do a Snorkl activity, then they can get that instant feedback and then go resubmit, which I know has been a game changer for so many kids. A lot of times if you do a paper worksheet, it's just like fill in the worksheet, turn it in, and hope that you get it back the next day or the day after that or something. And then the feedback's stale. But in this case, you can get feedback and you can work on it right away. So anyway, it's a tool that I'm really excited about. And John, I don't know about you, but I feel like with something like Snorkl, the best way to figure out how it really works is to get your hands dirty and actually try it. Wouldn't you say?
I think that's right. And so if you haven't tried Snorkl before, I want to invite you to, or even if you have, I want to invite you to try it out here with us right now. I just saw a message also in the chat. Some people, if you're running into any issues with the streaming, feel free to also jump on their YouTube. It's being live played on our YouTube. Just search Snorkl and you can find it there too. I'll try dropping the link in the chat just in case anyone can't hear me say that too. But I'm going to share my screen here and invite you to actually try Snorkl. I'll also, but just here right at the get-go, say, like, anyone can create a free account at Snorkl, snorkl.app. You can use it with your students on the free account. And actually, at the end of this call, I'm going to put up a premium access code that anyone on this call can also have premium access to Snorkl through the end of this school year. So thanks for joining us here. But I just wanted to share that. What Snorkl does, what Snorkl is a tool for capturing student thinking in rich ways and then giving them immediate feedback. One of those ways is through allowing students to actually record and explain their thinking. There's other ways too. We can have students write, but this is one of the ones that I think makes Snorkl really special. And so what a Snorkl activity can look like is something like this, where students see a question from their teacher, in this case, very serious, important question, which is, how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Students have different tools to show their thinking. They can draw, highlight, type, and when they're ready, they can press this record button and Snorkl will record their voice and anything that they put on their whiteboard so I can capture their thinking. So I can explain, when I'm making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, what I do is I take the peanut butter and the jelly and the bread and I put it all together into a sandwich, and then I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Okay, that wasn't a very good explanation, but I got the right ingredients at least. When I press that submit button, the AI is going to analyze my response, give me feedback and a score, and we align that to the teacher's expectations. And so you can actually have students do this with how they're solving a calculus question, how they are reading a passage, how they're analyzing a text, all sorts of different types of activities. And that's what we're going to really focus in on here. So we're going to actually share a bunch of different examples of this. But before we go any further, let you try this. So I'm going to share a different tab here on my screen. And I'm going to put this up on the screen there. So it's join.snorkl.app. And the code to join this activity is JU6S4N. I'll drop this here in the chat as well. Kim, thank you so much for helping folks out if they're looking for that, finding this. It's on YouTube as well. Great, Colette, great to have you. I saw a shout out here. Someone else is in Minnesota. Jason's in Minnesota. Lisa, good to have you. Great. Okay.
Got a fellow Hoosier from Indiana like me, and there Alice is from Indiana. So there's at least two of us from Indiana.
All right. So people are starting to access this link here. It's join.snorkl.app. You can put in this join code that's up on the screen. I also enabled guest mode on this activity, so you can sign in also as a guest. But I invite you to actually open this up. And once you do, you'll see a purple button that says Start Response. You can go ahead and click that. It's not going to start recording. It's just going to bring you to the whiteboard where you can see this really important question, which is asking you to explain how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'll just give you another moment here to navigate in. All right, I can see there's lots and lots of people already in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stop talking, which is a little bit weird in the middle of a webinar, but both Matt and I are going to stop talking for like the next 2 or 3 minutes, because what we're going to invite you to do is actually record a response. And if we're talking, we're going to talk over your recording. So we're going to stop talking, invite you to press that purple button where it says record screen and voice, and actually talk aloud, explain your thinking. And if you're in a room full of people, it's actually okay to do. It's actually going to, the microphone does a really good job of picking up your voice. Record an explanation here, and then when you're ready, you can press submit, and you'll get some AI feedback and a score. I will warn you right now, this has a rigorous bar for getting a 4 out of 4 on this peanut butter and jelly sandwich question. So we'll get to celebrate in a second here who in the class is getting a 4. If you're feeling adventurous, maybe you want to say something completely wrong. Maybe you put mayonnaise on your peanut butter and jelly sandwich today and see what the AI says. All right, we'll come back together in 3 minutes, but you got 3 minutes right now to try this Snorkl activity out. Matt, I see a celebration on your face. Success?
I got a 4 out of 4.
All right.
Now, I've got a little bit of an advantage because I've done this activity a couple of times and I've gotten feedback and I've learned what I need to remember for the future. So, yeah. So I got a 4 out of 4 on my first try, but the first time I did this, I think I got a 2 or a 3.
And you weren't alone this time. I put anonymous mode on here just so we wouldn't share anyone's names who didn't want it to be shared. But we got some other fours here in the house as well. Lots of 3s, and I noticed actually if you see here on my screen, I'm showing what I see as a teacher in real time. These responses are coming in, and whoever is anonymously named Mav Macaw right now actually just tried again and improved their response. And you may notice on your screen in the top right hand corner when you're looking at that student view, this is what you see. You see that respond again button. And we see something really special happening in Snorkl, which is students are using their feedback to revise and improve. And in fact, the average activity in Snorkl is attempted by students 2.1 times, meaning on average, students are attempting more than twice on a Snorkl activity. I think that speaks to the power of immediate feedback, but it also speaks to something else that I think is really special about Snorkl, which is students often feel a lot of ownership of their work when their voice is attached to it. And that's really special. I saw in the chat here, I'm trying to remember who it was. I might mispronounce his name. Is it Carol or Carell? Really determined to get a 4 out of 4. Yeah, I think we see and hear that from students a lot. I talk to teachers all the time who will say their students want to just like keep going on Snorkl, and they have to tell them they have to shut their laptop otherwise.
And I got to say, like, that's a little bit of that intrinsic motivation, I think, too, right? I mean, it is sort of extrinsic in that you're trying to get the points and everything, but if you're going, I want to be able to get to that level, and you're willing to do it over and over and over again, all of a sudden it changes the conversation away from how much do I have to do to get the points in the grade book? And all of a sudden it's like, what do I need to do to meet the standard? And that's a focus on learning instead of a focus on points in the grade book. And that's huge, I think, anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's really special how motivated students get in that process. So that's just a little taste of Snorkl. If you didn't get a 4 out of 4 yet, you can keep that link open if you would like. You can try again later, but we're going to keep going here. And really the sort of premise of how we want to share Snorkl today is we actually want to share just a bunch of different ways that teachers are leveraging Snorkl. I was going to do these one at a time here. That way teachers are leveraging Snorkl in the classroom. And so we're going to just focus on 5. And I'm going to share 5 different examples. Matt's going to share some too. But just want to share different ways that teachers are leveraging Snorkl across different subject areas, across different grade levels, and hopefully show some different ways that you could think about leveraging this in your class.
Hey, John, real quick before we go, I saw there were a couple of quick questions in the chat while they're still fresh. One of them was, does the teacher get to see the names on their end?
Yeah, absolutely. Teachers see all those names. I just made them anonymous just now, just because we're doing a webinar, but you can absolutely see them. You can actually see trends over time. You can see student scores and an analysis of it all. I'm going to show more of that too. Yeah. Good question.
And then the other question was, can the teacher limit the number of attempts to like 2 attempts?
They can. Yep. Teachers can limit number of attempts. That's a new feature we actually just pushed out here in January.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. And then the last one was, is there a way to do more than one activity at a time?
Good question. Lots of teachers assign multiple Snorkl activities. The way that it works is students just push the back button and they can find the next Snorkl activity from their class assignments.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm excited to see this.
Great. Well, with that framing, then let's jump in. We're gonna look at some math examples. We're gonna talk a little bit about multilingual learners and some EL supports. We're gonna talk a little bit about like what does Snorkl look like in social studies. We got Matt here, so we got to talk a little bit about Snorkl in oral languages and oral language practice, and then also about writing and revision. And so excited to dive into each of these. And if you're not seeing your specific use case up here, I'm also going to show you the Snorkl library, which has a collection of thousands of pre-created activities. And you can actually also create your own Snorkel activities using your own curriculum and your own materials too. So with that, let me just jump in with a little bit of math. I was a high school math teacher, and so near and dear to my heart is this idea of I wanted my students to be explaining and sharing their thinking and not just their answers. And so what makes Snorkel really beautiful for doing this is when students are working on a Snorkel activity in math class, they're given a whiteboard to show their response. And then they're also given an option to press that record button, and an opportunity to speak aloud and explain their answer. And so here on this question here, it's asking me to find the cosine ratio for angle theta. Now, if it's been a while since you've done some high school math, it's okay. I'm just going to do a little bit of work here. And I'm actually going to make a little bit of a mistake as I do this. So maybe you can catch my mistake. Cosine of angle theta here, I'm looking at this angle. And I remember that the cosine ratio is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And so what I'm going to do here is I see that this side, this must be my adjacent. And this side over here is my hypotenuse. And so my cosine ratio adjacent over hypotenuse is 6/10. All right, Matt, did you catch my mistake?
I was just trusting, or I'm a Spanish teacher, remember? So
yeah, no.
I'm just gonna have to go with you on this one.
I was in a high school chemistry class last week watching some high schoolers use Snorkel, and I had to be honest with them. I was like, I'm not going to be able to be of much help here, but the Snorkel can help. So I made a mistake here and actually mislabeling. I wasn't right in thinking that this side is the adjacent. That's actually the opposite side. I needed to find my adjacent side to really set this up right. But this is what it looks like for students to Snorkel in math class. And so what I get here is I get some feedback on my response. And it's giving me feedback on not just my answer, but on my explanation as well. The AI is analyzing both what I said and what I showed to give me feedback and a score. So it marked me as incorrect. I got a 2 out of 4 for my explanation. I get some praise on remembering what the cosine is. Like I gave the correct definition. There's something there to celebrate. But then it's actually asking me to double check which side is actually touching that angle theta, because that was supposed to be the adjacent. Students are getting specific, personalized feedback that celebrates what's going well and asks them questions about the things that are going poorly or that they have mistakes on, so that they can use that feedback to revise and improve. And that's part of what makes Snorkel so special.
Mm-hmm. John, there is a question in the chat that I think is a really good one. Betsy is envisioning this as a way for students to study for tests or check their homework or something like that. Can they use it sort of a little more on their own instead of just like teacher gives the assignment, student does the assignment? Good
question. Every activity in Snorkel is teacher assigned. And so that means that teachers do need to assign, or you could pre-assign a series of practice questions. But it's not a platform that students just go into and select their own questions or upload their own. It's actually teacher assigned activities. Mm-hmm. And part of that is on the teacher side. That's a good transition. On the teacher side, we have there's a lot of control that teachers have and actually insights into that student work. And I'm really trying to leverage AI in a way that gives teachers more insights into their student thinking and gets you closer to understanding what's happening across the class. So this is my math class here with a variety of different student responses. This is actually my class of friends. I've got Rachel and Ross and Monica in my class here. I can see all their work. It pops up in real time. It's automatically being scored. I can instantly preview it just by taking my cursor and scrolling over it. If a student attempted multiple times, I can see any of those attempts. I can jump in, of course, and look at the feedback that my students are getting. And I can actually override or change student scores or even change any of their feedback if I want to adjust it. We also have the AI analyze the entire class. And this is the piece that I mean about like getting us closer to our students' thinking. The Insights tab here will show us trends from across the class. And it will do this instantaneously. So it will show us what are the top student responses in the class. what are some of the mistakes or misconceptions our students have, and it will even group students by those misconceptions so we know who we might follow up with to have additional conversations. We're doing this automatically for anything in our library, but also for anything that a teacher uploads from their own curriculum.
This is so cool. So two things that I just saw there that I think are fantastic. First of all, this one right here, the fact that you have all of this data. Like for me, I was saying earlier, I've got a class of 33 kids. And so if I was able to take all of that data and have AI analyze all of that data and say, if you wanted to whole group teach, give whole group instruction on one or two little things that needed the most work, this is what it would be. Just having that is huge. And it's interesting because a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't want to use AI because it's going to be too impersonal. And I want to be more like in tune with my students. But really, if you use these insights, you start to see it's like, it's not just necessarily an AI thing. It's a being able to process the data and see what you can do with it. And then the other thing was the fact that you were able to kind of like scrub through that response just by hovering over it. That is like a grading dream to me, that right there. Because I remember I've seen other platforms come and go, and with some of them, if you record video, if the teacher's going to grade all of them, they have to click play and listen to all of these videos. But with that, if you just hover across it, you can read in an instant what the student said. And that's so smart. It just saves a ton of time.
Yeah. I think there's just a ton of opportunity there to understand our students better and celebrate them better too. There's some great questions coming in the chat. One that I want to just acknowledge real quick is there was a question about like, can you change how students are scored or the rubric? Yeah, so anything in Snorkl and anything you create, there is what the AI automatically will generate for you is like an answer key and criteria for success. The AI will set that up for you, and then you as the teacher can actually adjust that, and you can hone it in on certain learning goals or strategies or even vocabulary. So there's a lot of teacher control. Everything in Snorkl is scored on a 0 through 4 scale. So the scoring system is 0 through 4, but within that 0 through 4, you have a lot of control. We'll go through more of that in just a few minutes here, but I want to transition a little bit to like the second way that we're going to look at this, which is around multilingual support.
Yes. This is huge.
And so one of the things I think that makes Snorkl so powerful is we get our students talking and sharing their thinking more. We get them feedback. For our English language learners, that is such valuable practice. So we talk to districts. We have districts who have adopted Snorkl district-wide because they're trying to get their students talking and sharing more in preparation for things like their WIDA and Access tests and preparations for their TELPAS or their different tests that they're taking. I also think for our students who are new to country, Snorkl provides some really incredible opportunities. So Snorkl allows students to record and explain their thinking in over 65 different languages. They can get feedback in any of those languages, and we can make that visible to teachers. And so this is a student who is sharing his thinking. He's actually recording in Spanish, and I hope I shared my audio when I shared my screen. If not, this will be a little underwhelming. You have to let me know, please, in the chat here. I'm going to play this student response, but let me know if audio is not coming through.
必须哪个表达式同等于6乘以括号 x 减去4括号。我可以先看 A， 这个东西我们可以把它看成乘法分配率。第一个。
All right, he's explaining his thinking in Chinese and Mandarin. And you'll see there's the automatic closed captions that are generated for his response. I, unfortunately, don't speak any Chinese. But if I click this button, instantaneously, his transcript is now translated to English, and we can watch and listen in real time here and understand what he's saying by reading those captions.
可以让6乘以 x， 然后再用6乘以4。现在6乘以 x 等于 6x。 然后这里有个减，这里有个减的符号，所以再来个减，4乘以6。
Blows me away every time.
所以真正答案。
So if you want to talk about creating access for students, it just creates a really awesome opportunity. Students can also have anything on the whiteboard translated or read aloud to them if the teacher allows it. There's certain scenarios, for example, a world language class or perhaps even an English language learner class where you want to disable those features because the goal is to practice the language. But if you want to give students access to that content, You can have it translated. They can record in their preferred language. That feedback we can also instantly translate back to English for us as teachers so that we understand the feedback our students are getting.
I'm typing in a comment right now saying translating voice and feedback back and forth in different languages. I mean, John has shown me this example before, and the first time I saw it, it was just like, it's incredible because I mean, it really does. Whenever you can flip flop back and forth between those different languages so quickly, all of a sudden language becomes less and less of a barrier. I almost said language isn't a barrier, but it still is to some extent, but the barrier gets lowered so much further down that now it's really very much focusing on math in this case and not on language. Because that's the hard thing, isn't it? About, especially with kids that are learning a second or a third or a fourth language or whatever, is that if they're not in their native language, all of a sudden a math exercise becomes a math exercise and a language exercise based on very specific, very advanced mathematical vocabulary. And when you have to do both of those things, it's like, it's like I'm getting ready to go watch a basketball game at the school here. It's kind of like playing basketball, but having weights strapped to you and having to do the same thing as everybody else, only you have much more to be able to do. And this just takes those weights off of the students. Sorry, I kind of went on and on about that, but this is really one of my absolute favorite things.
Yeah, I think I was talking to a teacher the other day down in San Diego. He had a brand new student to his classroom. She was from Mexico, didn't speak hardly any English. They were doing a Snorkl activity. She recorded her response in Spanish. She was the first student in his class to get a 4 out of 4. And he said, like, you could just see in her classmates' eyes this realization of this girl who was brand new to class. They maybe made some assumptions about what she was capable of or what she knew and didn't know that were just instantly shattered. And there was just like a sudden, like he said, there was just joy across, like everyone was like really excited. This is like a 5th grade class. So they were really excited about this for their classmate, but also just, such an awesome opportunity to celebrate our students' strengths.
Yeah.
Just a real quick note here. If you're wondering about how do you change that feedback language on any account, teacher or student, it's in the top right-hand corner. You click on language settings, and there you have a drop down of those 65 different languages that Snorkl supports.
Cool.
So that's where you can.
John, we did have a couple of quick questions in the chat if we can get to them.
Great.
One was Colette asked, how did you take all the this was from earlier. This was like 6 minutes ago.
Yeah.
How did you take all the data from your students and upload to AI for the insights? So I think that was the whole class insights. It's just a tab. You just click on it, right?
Yeah. So Snorkl, when students respond in Snorkl, the insights here is auto-generating from their responses. So it's captured all that rich data of their speaking and showing their work in Snorkl, and then it's generating those insights.
Okay. Question number 2. Do you have to use students' real names to log in? Can you give them a first name or a number or something like that?
Good question. So typically login through Snorkl happens through either Clever, Microsoft, or Google sign-in. There is a guest sign-in option, so you can enable guest login to allow your students to sign in with some sort of alias. The one thing about guest sign-in is every time students sign in as a guest, they are joining as guests, and so you won't be able to track progress over time or some of those more longitudinal insights. But that is an option. We also are in every state across the country. We're happy to sign a data privacy agreement with your school or district. So if that's ever a barrier for you, please reach out.
Yeah. And that was the next question about, do you guys keep or sell any student data, third-party data, any of that stuff? And I know, someone hopped right in. Thank you, Mariah, for saying that you all have COPPA, FERPA, CSPC seals on the website and everything, right?
Yeah, all those things. We're proud to be iKeepSafe certified, Common Sense Privacy verified. We take student data privacy and safety really, really seriously. Please know that, and please also feel free to reach out if there's other questions about that. Happy to support and follow up too. Yeah.
Magdalena asked if you set it up for a specific language, and actually we did that with my example that I'm going to share later, right?
Yeah, great. Let's get that. I've got one other use case I want to hit before world languages, which is just, I actually want to look at the library here just to show off sort of some of the social studies activities, but also just to more generally show off what's in the Snorkl library. So in the Snorkl library, and the way I got here is actually I went to home, I went to library. I'll drop the link here in the chat a little bit later so that everyone can get in here as well. But the Snorkl library has pre-created content across all grade levels and content areas. And then you can also create your own. So I just wanted to double click really quickly here on social studies. Let's go to world history and just show some examples of different types of things that you can do with Snorkl. You can have students analyze a graph or a chart. You can have students analyze a primary source document or text, whether that's reading and annotating or answering questions about it. You can have students fill out a graphic organizer. You can also have students do, I just thought this was just sort of a fun example here. Like you can actually make Snorkl activities that include manipulatives that students can drag and drop around their screen.
Oh, wow.
So they can
No
perhaps do some matching. And the fun thing about this is it's not just a matching activity, it's a match and explain activity, right? So you still see the record button here at the bottom. So students are going to still have to do some explanation, perhaps of how they knew that each of these were the correct explorers to associate with those descriptions. And so really an opportunity to go deeper with students, but also provide them with personalized support at scale for every kid. I could go on about this, but let's jump over to number 5. And I meant to say like world language, oral language practice, but I just ended up putting oral language practice. Matt, I want to hand it over to you here just to share a quick example for Spanish class.
Absolutely. So as I was mentioning earlier, I am teaching high school Spanish, and I'm really big into having my students describe things in Spanish. And sometimes we do it in text, but of course I always love for them to be able to practice speaking Spanish too. And one of the big things that I do in my own class is that I love using AI image generators. And I will use a whole bunch of my vocabulary words and throw them into the prompt and take these images so that they're very rich in the vocabulary, and then ask my students a million questions about them. We'll do it verbally in class. Sometimes I'll have them write, sometimes, just a wide variety of things. And one of the cool things about Snorkl is that I can take one of those images and I could have my students do a response where they describe the image in Spanish instead of just hearing me talk about it. So I actually used a couple of, these are a couple of pictures that I used in my actual Spanish class. We were talking about weather, and then I think we were talking about animals and food vocabulary. I don't know. We do a wide variety of different types of vocabulary. So we'll put these in here, and the instructions just say in Spanish, they say describe the photos using the vocab on the list. And so, of course, I'm able to hit record here, and I can describe this in Spanish. And so I could say, en la primera foto hay una reportera aquí y ella está describiendo el tiempo del día. Y hoy, en este día, hay una tormenta. Es una tormenta grande con un tornado y la temperatura es 60 grados. En foto número 2 hay una cebra que está preparando para comer unos espaguetis. That's probably enough. I guess we'll find out, won't we? So we take this and we submit. I don't get to do very many presentations where I get to talk in Spanish. That was kind of fun. So, and so then again, as John was mentioning earlier, I'm going to switch while it's generating feedback. I wanted to switch over here and show you how I made my activity. So whenever you create an activity, you have this same screen. And so you can give you can give it a name, and then you can say what kind of activity you want it to do. I wanted to do the whiteboard recording where you could record your voice and also draw. I almost considered doing an audio only because really it was just pictures and they were just going to describe. Or if you want to have them only annotate without audio, you can. And then there's also a writing with a rich text editor. So I did the whiteboard recording. And then with the question, this is the stuff you put on the screen before the students get it. It's kind of like, if you wanted to do some writing on a worksheet before you took it to the photocopier. It's like, what do you want to put on there that everybody's going to get? You can add additional instructions. And then this part down here, this is where, this is the prompt or the question. And then we've also got answer criteria. And this is huge. Now, what I did was I generated this using AI from the questions on the screen. But I could also generate it and then go back and edit it myself, or I could write it myself from scratch, however I want. And then someone was asking earlier about languages. And in this case, I specified that the feedback language is going to be Spanish. So anyway, I've got all of that here. And Matt, then, yes.
There was a question here in the chat from Heather about, can you add audio on a task for students to hear? Can I show you a brand new feature we released today?
Love it. Yes.
Okay. If you click on that whiteboard, we're on the teacher side. This is important. We're on the teacher side. There's a new button in that top toolbar. You can actually record audio for your students to listen to, and students can play that on their whiteboard and then respond. And what's cool about it is the AI is going to know what's in your audio clip.
Oh, nice. That's cool. And there you can see it starting to spike. I'm going to record some audio, and I'm going to see if I bring my voice way up here. It does make it a little bit different. Sorry, I had to.
I think this is going to be powerful for world language. It's also going to be powerful for, English language learners, and for just, frankly, anytime you want something read aloud to your students. There's a read aloud where the AI will automatically read aloud, but this gives an extra option too. There's that feedback.
Oh my goodness, the Spanish teacher only got a 3 out of 4. I don't know how to feel about that. I did kind of cut it off a little quick on the picture at the bottom. And then, of course, all of my feedback is in Spanish right here. So it says that I mentioned the reporter and the storm and the tornado and the temperature. And the second picture, I described the zebra, but can you see any other animals? Yeah, I know. I cut it off a little early. And then I said spaghettis, and it says, are you sure that that's what the zebra is eating? I see some spaghetti right there, but I guess I kind of looked at it a little bit quickly. And so that's where I could hit that respond again button.
And part of that could be, Matt, is how the AI set up that criteria. So if you go back to that teacher side, we could see how did the AI describe what it saw in that image. Because it may be that it didn't read that as spaghetti, and that's an easy fix for us, is just to adjust that criteria.
Yeah, nice. So that's the world language connection for me, and I'm just kind of getting started. But I thought that was a really easy, sort of simple entry point. You put that picture on there, and you have students describe it, and then immediately they've got instant feedback.
Awesome. All right, where I want to go here next, then, and we're going to wrap up pretty soon here, but we are on way number. Oh, I stopped sharing my screen there. Way number 5, which is we looked at some math. We did some English language learning. We looked at some different social studies examples. That we got the world language example. You can also do writing practice in Snorkl. And so I just want to share a quick example of what that looks and feels like for a student in Snorkl when they're working on writing. So this is a writing task. So the setup is a little bit different. Rather than giving students a whiteboard, students see a prompt from their teacher on the left-hand side. If we scroll down, the teacher has attached articles and resources for the student. You could do this with a DPQ in social studies. You could do this with a CER in science. You could do this with a world language activity where students are practicing their writing in a different language. When students write their response here, hopefully they write better than that. They submit their response, and very similar to that whiteboard recording experience, they're going to get feedback and a score on their response. Teachers can adjust that criteria. Again, you can make it match up with your class and your goals, but then students can actually use that feedback to revise and improve their writing. Here, it was not very impressed by my response. I'm a shocker. I'm impressed. Respond again. pick up with my previous work, I can actually click on this button up here at the top to see my previous feedback and use that now as I'm revising. But I think one of the special things here about Snorkl's writing feedback, and this goes for all of how we're leveraging AI in Snorkl, is they're getting that feedback after they've shared their thinking. And we're really trying to think about how do we leverage AI in a way that supports our students to do more of the thinking, more of the ownership, more of the hard intellectual work, and then get that feedback. And after they've submitted it, it's visible and saved to the teacher. So I can actually see as the teacher their first attempt, or I can see their last revision or anything in between there, but really capturing that student thinking in all those rich ways.
Awesome. I was just trying to respond to a question, but now that you paused for just a second, Vanessa asked a good question. She said, is it possible to combine a spoken task and a written task? And I guess that's kind of what I was doing with mine. If it's a whiteboard recording and they use the text tool, they could type their text and they could record their voice, or you could do it as separate activities, I suppose, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And you could even indicate to the AI when you're setting up that criteria, like what you want students to speak and what you want students to write. You could give it that sort of specification if you'd like it to. There have been a ton of great questions here, and we're getting closer to the end here. I'm gonna put a couple of things on the screen, and then let's grab maybe one or two more questions that we can answer. If there's anything that we don't get to today and you're wondering, I've got the screen up here. You'll see there's this Snorkl support email is right there on the teacher home screen. You can also schedule a call. Happy to jump on. Again, anyone can create a free account for Snorkl. Our homepage is snorkl.app. It looks like this. So you can go in here and you can click that sign up button, invite your colleagues to do it as well. But I also said at the beginning of this time together that I was going to share a QR code or a link for premium access to Snorkl for this year. And so I want to make sure I put this up here on the screen. And so if you, I know this might be a little bit tricky. If you don't have your phone on you right now, if you have your phone, you can take a picture of that QR code, and then it will bring you to Snorkl. It will ask you to sign in. You will need to sign in if you want to authorize that premium access on your account. It'll be premium through the end of the school year. If you don't have your phone in front of you right now and you're like, oh no, I'm missing this link, shoot me an email. This is super risky to do, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to put my email in the chat. And I'm going to spend the rest of my evening here responding to emails. Shoot me an email if you're not able to access that premium access code. It's John, Jon, at snorkl.app, and we'll make sure that you get upgraded to premium so that you have that premium access too. We have teachers who use the free access all school year long. You can use it on an ongoing basis as well. So don't feel like you have to have the premium, but there are some extra features there in the premium. Matt, what questions should we answer here before we close out?
Lori asked, is there a limit to the number of students that can respond to an activity? You put one activity up there, how many kids can get into it?
Great. No limit. Yep.
That's what we love to hear. That's great. Yeah. And then Merle asked earlier, is there an integration with Schoology? And I said, it's easy to just copy the link and stick it into an assignment. Is there anything more like integrated to that? I mean, that's a pretty easy way to handle it.
Yeah, good question. And thanks for saying that, because it's pretty simple to share an activity with your class. On any activity, there's a share link or join code. This is the same way that we all access that peanut butter and jelly sandwich question at the beginning. So you just copy that link and paste it to Schoology.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. And then one more question. The question was, is there a Snorkl app for the iPad? But you basically just run it through the browser, don't you?
Yeah, it's all browser based. We got a lot of districts who use it on their iPads. You know, being able to do it on a touchscreen is really nice. I would say about half of our users have touchscreen devices and half don't. Yeah. So it's not a requirement. Oh, and one last thing I'll say. There's a question earlier I saw, and I forget who asked it, about can you really have 30 students talking and recording in class at once?
This was my big question. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think you and I like personally talked about this. This was one of my concerns as a teacher too.
It's a great question. And the answer is yes, it works. I am in classrooms all the time. I was in a high school classroom last week where there were 30 kids. No one had headphones. No one got up out of their desks. They're all just talking. And it's really cool to see because you get 30 kids who are talking about their thinking at once, and that's like deep engagement. Certainly, there are classrooms where people will use headphones, and I've also been in classrooms where kids spread out around the room. Both are options, but you don't have to. The AI does a really good job of picking up the voice that's closest to the microphone, and sometimes even if you listen to the video back, you might hear all this background noise. But if you scrub through the closed captions that are automatically generated, those closed captions are just that student's voice. The one piece of advice I'll give to any teacher here is when you introduce this to your class the first time, tell them, hey, when you press record, that's when you should start talking. Because what we will see sometimes is the first time teachers will roll this out, you'll get your students who will press record and then won't say anything. And then in that case, the AI is trying to figure out whose voice to follow. And yeah, we'll pick up on other students' voices. But if you start talking when you press the record button, it does a really nice job.
Awesome.
This webinar will be on YouTube. If there's other questions we didn't get to, please reach out. Yeah, you can post audio on the whiteboard too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If there's other questions that we didn't get to, feel free to reach out. The support email there is the homepage is a great way to do it. I dropped my email also in the chat earlier, just a few minutes ago as well. So you can find that john@snorkl.app. And super excited for more snorkeling.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great. And so thank you all so much for being a part of this. I learned some new things about Snorkl as well. And you may have seen, I had my phone out and I scanned that QR code and activated my premium access through the end of the school year too. So if you didn't get that, remember, just go find John's email in the stream and shoot him an email because he's going to love responding to all of our emails all night. Right, John?
Absolutely will. I'll drop it again in the chat in case anyone missed it. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt. Huge thank you to you for hosting and putting this together.
Yes, absolutely. Take care, everyone.
All right. Take care. Bye.